Well, hello, I'm Doug Apple, back with another special interview for you today. How are things going with your healthcare payments, your healthcare expenses? A lot of people are finding themselves deep in medical debt, or maybe you're looking at that and say, well, I don't want to end up in deep medical debt. How can I avoid that? Well, one way you can avoid it as a Christian is by becoming a member of HealthCare. It's a Christian healthcare sharing ministry, not a health insurance corporation. And you can find more information at their website, sharehealthcare.com. You've been hearing about them here on Wave 94. They bought a little airtime. And we're going to talk right now with Mike Sharman. He's the legal counsel for Share Healthcare. And Mike, I've got some questions for you about Share Healthcare, some very specific things just to help people to understand what it's all about. And we'll start with this question. How would Share Healthcare work if a member had an appendicitis attack?
Well, Share Healthcare would have a member advocate that can pray with your husband or wife who's getting you to the hospital really fast. We have prayer support, so that is very helpful. So appendicitis is very immediate. You can't, just go to set up an appointment a few days later and go to the doctor. You need to go to the hospital immediately. So that's fine. You go to the hospital, you show them your Share Healthcare membership card, or you can also just show it to them on your phone, which you have all of your entire portal is on your phone. Then they admit you. Your bill is electronically transferred to Share Healthcare, or perhaps they'll do a paper one. And then we negotiate the bill with them. And we share that bill.
Would it be the same scenario if, we're here in Florida, if somebody suffered from a shark attack?
It would be, other than the fact that the person on the other end at Share Healthcare who's receiving the information would probably be much more astonished at seeing a bill for a shark attack than they would be for appendicitis.
Yeah, I'm sure it's rarer.
I don't recall that we've had one yet.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. So here's another question. So I know, like out of our church and a lot of churches, we send people out to places all over the world on missions trips. So let's say you're a member of Share Healthcare and you go somewhere, and next thing you know, you have malaria and they've admitted you to some, strange foreign hospital. Now what?
Well, that's a very good question, particularly for the short-term missions, like you mentioned, of folks going from the church and having maybe a week-long mission someplace or a one-month one, and they might not realize that their U.S. health insurance, or if they're on Medicare or Medicaid, does not work overseas. Some health insurance may have repatriation, that is, they'll fly you back home, but you aren't going to be able to be treated there. So Share Healthcare is seamless, let's say. You don't have to do anything different when you go overseas. You don't have to tell us you're going overseas. You don't have to get a separate, some other policy. Like if you have your health insurance, you have to get a different policy to take care of you overseas. And then a lot of the travel insurance is also just essentially repatriation. They'll do the care that stabilizes you, then send you back home. With Share Healthcare, you have that choice, of course, or you have the choice of getting whatever care you need in that country that you're in and having that taken care of, continue on your mission, and then come back home. So Share Healthcare, like I said, is seamless internationally. You don't have to get some other rider, some other policy. Share Healthcare itself, which is, by the way, is a 501c3 nonprofit ministry, and its specific ministry is taking care of the medically necessary expenses for our members. So, of course, if you're overseas and you have a medically necessary expense, then we share it, just as we were if you were in Tallahassee.
So this is less dramatic, but also more common. You're a young couple joins Share Healthcare. The price is low. They feel good about that. And then the wife realizes that they're going to have a baby. Where does Share HealthCare fit into helping with the costs of pregnancy and having a baby?
Well, we're probably more favorable than really any healthcare sharing ministry that I know of out there, and more favorable than most insurance. With Share HealthCare, if you are pregnant, if you become pregnant more than 60 days after you become a member, then just that full pregnancy is shared. And of course, whatever issues may relate to the little woman when the baby's born, that of course is shared as well. Whatever, if mom has any complications, that's shared also. By the way, we don't have any annual limit or any lifetime limit or any per event limit of our sharing. We do have the personal responsibility part. So let's say that family has joined our most common program, which is for a family, $349 for a family of 4. Let's say they're just a couple. This is their first baby. So they would have shared at $249 per month as a couple. And then the wife's pregnancy is shared, etc. So let's say she didn't realize she was pregnant, though, when they joined. And so she's pregnant inside that 60-day window. Well, in that case, we just really aren't able to share fully in that. But what we do is try to let you know, well, we're still coming alongside you. And so half of everything that they are sharing up to the time of birth is returned to them. So it's not as good as having everything taken care of, but again, that's more favorable than what one would have with pretty much any other choice that they might have. Then, since the baby is a brand new addition to that family, everything related to the baby after birth, even from the moment of birth, is fully shared.
But then they need to add the extra to cover the child, right?
At the next month, yes. They need to tell us, by the way, we had the baby, and please bring us up to being a family. And so then they would be a family price, $349 per month. So let me also mention, even though we say couple, that might be a single mom and her child. So 2 people in a family is a couple.
Good point. I have a friend who had a baby, and then it turned out that the child had some complications, like a cleft palate, that required some surgeries afterward. How does that work with Share HealthCare?
Share HealthCare would share that. Whatever medically necessary cosmetic surgery is there, Share HealthCare takes care of it. Now, Share HealthCare won't help you with wrinkles, but, that elective cosmetic surgery. Mm-hmm. But if a person's in an auto accident or has to have, let's say they have some cancer treatment that needs cosmetic surgery, or, after breast cancer or breast reconstruction, all of that type cosmetic surgery is shared. And so the baby's, whatever complications the baby has, is shared.
So some people might be thinking this about Share HealthCare. Is it the sort of thing where I can get in and then try it for a while, and then, or am I just locked in once I step in?
No. People probably hear about open enrollment, which is anything other than open. That because of Obamacare, they fix a time in the year that people can switch their insurance companies. And that typically is between October and January. So since Share HealthCare is a healthcare sharing ministry, and healthcare sharing ministries are specifically exempt from Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, they're all year round is open enrollment. So you can get in any time of the year that you want. And since our foundation is the desire to have freedom, for where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, right? Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't want to impose upon somebody constructs that don't have liberty. So no, you can come on anytime and you can drop anytime. Now, one caveat though is that the laws that we are under, the laws that give us liberty, say we can only share with our members, mm-hmm. which kind of makes sense, but the law is pretty specific. So if you are not a member, we can no longer share with you. So one caution we tell people when they're saying, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to drop now. Okay, that's fine. But do you have any pending medical expenses? Well, yes, we have this one that we got last month. All right, then make a decision. Do you want to continue until that's shared, or do you want to drop now? Because we can't share your past medical expenses after you drop. Mm-hmm. And the legal reason for that, besides the fact that it says we can only share with our members, is that one of the elements of insurance is assuming the risk of another. So if you leave, but your risk stays behind, that medical expense, then we've assumed your risk, which we can't do and validly say we're not insurance.
Makes sense to me. So we're talking about Share HealthCare. People can find more information at sharehealthcare.com or just give them a call at 1-844-SHARE-HC. Here's one more question for you, Mike, and that is, what is one of the most significant ways Share HealthCare is different than health insurance that makes it really good for the members of Share HealthCare?
Well, the one that jumps immediately to mind, particularly in this inflation-ridden era that we're in, is cost. We're at $349 a month, as I mentioned, for a family of four. Well, the average insurance for a family of four right now is $2,200 a month. So there's that enormous cost difference. And when you think that the typical American household right now spends $1,037 per month more on basic items than they did on Inauguration Day, 3 years ago, that difference in cost is huge. And being able to immediately erase that inflation erosion that they've had just by having Share HealthCare as their way of dealing with their medically necessary expenses, that's an enormous one. Then on a non-price issue, the one that comes most to mind is the fact that you have choices. You can go to any doctor, and in fact, any licensed medical professional in the world. Let's say, a physician assistant who's licensed and can practice, a nurse practitioner, a midwife. You can go to any one of them in the world, and that health practitioner can choose the care that is appropriate for you. That freedom, that liberty that you have, I don't really know where else you can do that, with what other vehicle.
Well, talking about this topic of inflation, you brought up a statistic or two, and I see a lot of memes flying around the internet claiming this, claiming that. I really don't know what all I can believe. What are the statistics on inflation?
Well, one doesn't have to believe me just as voice on the radio. You can go to a number of places, Moody Analytics, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, other neutral tools that will let you see what the prices are and how they were. So, as I mentioned, the cost of living for the basic expenses, Moody Analytics says that they've gone up $1,037 more per month for the typical American household than they were in 2021. So egg prices, for example, are 43.89% higher than they were in 2021. Bread, 25% higher. Housing prices are 21% higher. Mortgage rates are 261% higher. 261% higher. So that's what is killing most people who are trying to get into the housing market. So, that new couple that you just mentioned with a baby, they might be having to put the baby's crib next to their fold-out sofa that they've been sleeping on in their studio apartment because things are so expensive. The mortgage rate, the 30-year mortgage rate in 2020 was 2.96%. Okay, so the mortgage rate at the time that we're speaking, the general time that we're speaking right now, is 7.73%. And as most people know, when you're looking at a 30-year mortgage, the bulk of what you're paying for those first couple of years is the interest cost. That's a 261% increase that young couple is going to have. Gas prices, they were $2.11 per gallon on Election Day in 2020. as of April 17th, 2024, it's $3.66. That's the average across the nation, 173% increase.
Wow.
That means everything else has gone up in price, too, because everything has to have fuel to be transported and made. And then because of those expenses, those inflationary pressures, we've had retail closures up 30% over just 2022. And that was, 2022 was bad because that was COVID. So job reports, we have 13.9% of all workers. 13.9% of all workers are in a part-time job. Either they can only have a part-time job, or they have multiple part-time jobs, or they have a full-time job, and a part-time job. But 13.9% of all workers do. And that's the highest ever in American history of workers, the percent of workers who have part-time jobs. And this is all creating big problems for families. Evictions are up 78.6% since 2021. And so are foreclosures. So price is a very important thing, but you want to also be looking at, when you look at share healthcare, it's great that you can save that money and avoid a lot of those bad problems that we just mentioned with inflation. $349 for a family, $149 for a single, $249 for a couple. That's pretty good. But what I would really want people to be thinking of is the spiritual component to it. We try to be as biblical as possible. You aren't going to be being forced to share in abortions or abortifacients or transgendering or any of the other gender disruption things. We don't share in the tobacco use problems. We don't share in alcohol use problems because the members, that is, we accept Christians and we accept Christians of all denominations, but we don't accept as members people who use tobacco. We don't accept as members people who abuse alcohol. And how do we define that? Well, we do accept moderate drinking, which is one to three drinks a week. So, having a glass of wine with dinner on Friday, having a toast of champagne at a wedding. But we avoid, because of those two things, we avoid so many problems and so many healthcare problems. But it has a price function, let's say. We don't have the expense of those. But it's because we're just following the Bible, just trying to make sure we're having our body be a temple and not abuse it.
Well, how much is the price of share healthcare gone up since that inauguration day you mentioned?
0. And that's really a function of our members' health, our members' fidelity to what I was just saying. They're living biblically. And we just haven't had the pressure to go up in the expense.
Now, I don't know if you want to wade out into these waters. Perhaps you have an opinion on it now, but even the best economists can't quite seem to. It's like whack-a-mole, but this question does come to my mind a lot, and that is, why do we have such inflation over these last 3 years or so?
Well, the energy function is probably the best one. Best explanation. Of course, we had that huge influx of money from all the various COVID fixes, quote unquote, and putting more money into the system always will create inflation. But I think what's continuing to propel it is from President Biden's decisions right on his first couple days in office of trying to do everything for his green agenda and try to do everything to shut down petrochemicals. Diesel, fuel oil, gasoline, coal, those things that typically have made the American economy flow smoothly. So when you increase, and by shutting that down, stopping future drilling, etc., stopping expansion, then you've increased the price of fuel. And when, as I mentioned before, when you increase the price of fuel, everything else goes up in price. So that, in my view, is probably the biggest thing. I think also there's a lot to be attributed just to the fact of we've gotten so used to inflation that people aren't as price resistant on things. When they see an increase in price at their chosen grocery store, they don't say, oh man, it's too expensive here, I'm going to go to the next one. I think that type of price shopping has decreased just because we've been on such an inflationary spiral for a while. People don't think there's any point in shopping. They just think, oh, it's gone up because it's gone up.
I want to have you comment on one other layer as we kind of wrap up our time here today, but that is talk about this angle to the whole mess, and that is consumer debt. Oh,
well, we're having credit card debt's gone up. Mortgage debt, of course, has gone up because people's new buyers are having to pay more. The cost of automobiles is more, and so there's more consumer debt. Whichever way you look at it, we have more consumer debt. And so, again, because credit card debt has gone up, the people's expenses, they might have needed to live on a credit card for a while, or they just had, and it stuck there because, the average, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think the average interest rate on a credit card, I believe, is 26%. So if you're only paying the annual, or the minimum required amount, it's just going to keep going up on you. So again, that fact that the average health insurance for a family of four is $2,200, while Share HealthCare is $349, that gives you that, let's just round it off to be about $1,800, $1,700, $1,800 difference to be putting down on your credit card debt every month, and it'll go away a whole lot faster than any other way.
So many good reasons for you to consider Share HealthCare for you and your family. That's Mike Sharman of Share HealthCare. You can find all the information on their website, sharehealthcare.com, or if you want to just talk to another soul about it, you can give them a call at 1-844-SHARE-HC. And for Wave 94, I'm Doug Apple.